Call this meeting of the Madison Board of Selectmen to order on Monday, July 22nd, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. at the East Madison Fire Station. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, the record shows Selectman Duchamp is absent. Consent agenda, warrant number 37, 7/8/19, number 1, 7/8/19, payroll register number 28, 7/11/19, and number 29, 7/18/19.
Move to accept. Second.
A motion and a second to accept the warrant and payroll register as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Acceptance of the meeting minutes of July 8th, 2019.
I wasn't here.
It's your chance, Mr. Sanders.
Let's give it to George.
I don't know, I wasn't here.
Approved as written. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes of July 8th, 2019. Any questions?
Well, maybe I didn't see it.
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor? 3 in favor, 1 abstained. And we are still waiting on the minutes of June 3rd, which will hopefully be the next meeting. Old business, Mr. Moody?
None for me, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Elias?
No.
Mr. Stavich? And none for me. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager?
There's a couple things to pass along to you tonight. In your packets, you'll see a letter that's a communication from Madison Electric Works. Essentially, I talked with Jeff Melcher this afternoon, the new superintendent up there. Every year, electric companies, no matter how big or small they are, have to give a portion of their proceeds to Efficiency Maine. And they do it based on an estimate of how many kilowatt hours. MEW normally overestimates, other companies normally underestimate. Well, the PUC did an audit, and they found out that those companies that underestimated and took in more money from their consumers have to give a refund back. MEW overestimated and didn't take enough from their consumers, ratepayers, so they have to go back and collect that amount of money that they didn't end up collecting. MEW's board asked the PUC if they could eat it and just absorb the loss. The PUC said no, and the PUC said not only that, you have to send out a letter to every one of your customers letting them know. The net result is less than $1 per monthly bill for 2 years to catch up to it. So technically it's not a rate increase, but it is a process they have to go back to get the Efficiency Maine money collected. Also in your packet, there was a letter from the People Who Care food cupboard. It gave information on the board member, the number of people they've served so far year to date, and their request for the funding that was approved at the town meeting. A couple other things that came to my attention today. We're in the process of looking in to see who pays for the county jail's tipping fees when their waste is picked up and taken to waste management. The company that they had been using was charging them a tipping fee. When I talked with Waste Management was not charging this company a tipping fee. The town of Madison was absorbing the tipping fees for the waste that was collected at the Somerset County Jail. So before I go too far in this, I kind of wanted to poll the board to see what your expectations are. Do you expect the town to pay the tipping fees for the county jail? Or do you expect the contractor that works with the county jail separately to arrange to pay those? Because they're up for a new contract. That's why this came to our attention. So I didn't know what the board's thought on that was.
What do we do for everybody else?
Well, on one hand, they are a business in town, but they're also a business that's funded by taxpayer dollars. So
They're not taxpayers.
they are not taxpayers, they're business.
All of our other businesses are taxpayers.
That would be a clear difference, yes. My thought on the way over here is, how do we handle the waste that's collected at the school and that goes over to waste management? Does the town pay the tipping fee for that?
And we're gonna anyway. We're gonna anyway.
Right.
Either in their budget or we pay them.
Well, that's the same with the county, but
The county, all the other towns are paying.
So what should the town of Madison be doing for the tipping fees for the county jail? Want to give it some thought and let me know? I'll do a little more digging in.
What does the business do? What is,
The town pays for the businesses' tipping fees.
so why would they be any different?
Well, Mr. Elias pointed out they're not a tax-paying business.
It's one thing to use the school, for example. It's one thing for us to pay for the school through our budget here, or we're gonna pay for it through our school budget. Now, if we were a multi-town district, which we're not, other towns would contribute to that, which we've had these discussions in the past. The county has, how many towns in the county? And they all have to pay their budget. So why should we pick up for every town in the county?
So what do we do with Anson Madison sanitary or Anson Madison water? Do they pay their own tipping fees?
I don't know, do they? I can't answer that question, but I don't know.
I don't know. Do they have a commercial hauler that comes and takes trash out of waste management?
We take stuff down to waste management, but it's sludge.
No, I'm talking about
That's
this waste,
great,
that's
Dave.
the dumpster and
I don't think that, geez, I can't answer that question. I really haven't even looked at that close.
It may be something that we need to look into.
yeah, I don't think we're gonna treat them any different than anybody else. I mean, if we're gonna change that, then that's something we can change with. If the sanitary and the water and, I mean, every other business is getting their tipping fee paid for, I don't see why we're gonna charge them for that service.
Yeah, but Albert, we charge Cumberland Farms and other businesses, they pay taxes,
Mhm.
okay? So we pick up their we pay for their trash. So we'd have to look at Madison Electric,
Right,
Anson, Madison Sanitary District, and water,
water.
okay? School, we already know, we're the only town that supports the school, correct? So we're gonna pay that anyway. I do not know about Anson, Madison Sanitary, I don't know about MEW, and I do not know about the water district. So you wanna wait till next meeting, Tim?
Well, yeah, it sounds like I need to do a little more research. And just to be clear, so everybody's on the same page, the county jail is not asking the town to pay the tipping fees. The county jail has been paying their contractor these tipping fees, and we just found out that Waste Management has not been charging that contractor tipping fees the town of Madison's been paying.
So it sounds
So
like.
that contractor owes us money.
Owes the jail money.
So it sounds like they would pay them anyways, so.
But,
Okay.
oh no, he just said that the jail's been paying for tipping fees.
So we'll do a little more digging into that and come back.
As long as the tipping fee is going to waste management, I think that's fine, but if it's not,
No.
put it in his pocket, we're still paying, it really doesn't.
I heard the county
Just
paid
paid
the
twice.
contractor, the contractor did not pay Waste Management, Waste Management charged the town.
Correct.
The contractor owes us money. That's how I look at it.
We'll bring it back.
Okay.
I'm just getting you warmed up. You've been out.
Oh, I'm warm already.
It's kind of separate services.
Absolutely.
So, next thing I wanted to have road commissioner share is some chip seal that's going to be applied to parts of Preble Avenue. And as we've been talking about this for months, and it's taken us a long time to get it wrapped around our brain what chip seal is. So this is a publication that will go out to the residents that will be directly affected. So we are mailing out about 20 of these to residents from the recreational ball fields out to Schuster Road, about 20 residents. And so this, I can let Jeff explain a little bit more about what's going to happen.
This is it's a preventive maintenance for the surface of the road, prolong the life expectancy of the road from 8 to 11 years. Town of Solon has done some last year, and that was the spot where you had talked about. We did a section, we did the Madison section on the Meeting House Road. That turned out very well, but the contractor has noted that you will get some complaints, and that's what this information packet, it's gonna look like putting dirt on top of the hot top, and all it is half inch stone. And it will have a rough texture until it gets worn in and cut off by the plows this winter to, make a smoother surface. So if anybody happens to call or ask, that's what's taking place.
Moody?
Is this loose enough so it's gonna collect up underneath the vehicles?
No, what it is, it's a liquid asphalt, liquid bonding surface. They put it down, then they put the stone on top of this, then they crush it in with a roller. And there will be some loose stone, but they won't stick to your vehicle. And, you'll see, and then they sweep it. After a week, I believe they sweep it. So any loose stones will be swept off on the shoulder of the road. And if you want to take a look at it, our section of the median house road was done, but Solon did their whole piece, and then they did the whole length of the South Solon median house road, 8 miles. So if you want to take a look at it, it's projected to start, within a couple, 2 or 3 weeks. They have the stone up to the garage already. They hauled it up this week, stockpiled it, so they won't have to chase after it.
Any, you know how I feel on this, I don't really like this stuff, but is there any wear and tear on tires, I mean, anywhere? Nothing?
The only wear and tear on the first couple applications, on the first couple snow plowings, you'll have to go a little slow with the plows till those rocks get cut off and smooth. Talked to quite a few different road commissioners around the state that have used it, and they all basically said the same thing. Once you gotta go slow the first couple times, and then after that, it's just like any other road. But it does have a different look, it does have a different sound, so it does look totally different.
Left up that pile of stuff in front of the garages.
Yes, that's what that stone is, yeah, it's all half-inch stone.
And basically what you're giving us is another 8 to 11 years
Right.
of use of that road without it deteriorating.
Yes. Preble Avenue did have some pretty large cracks in it. If you remember last year, we used that cold mix on that first section. This year, we put hot mix from where we left off to the Schuster Road. So we're gonna do that whole section from the rec field all the way to the Schuster Road. Some of those larger cracks will still possibly appear because that road was so out of shape. And you can't get away from that. You grind it and shape it.
All right, anything else? Any more questions? All right, thank you.
And the last thing on the items of communication is that packet I passed out earlier. On top is the invoice from the Anson Madison Sanitary District for the assessment fee of $107,000. As you recall at town meeting, the town meeting vote was to approve $44,000 and continue the practice of paying for services rendered. So far to date, in this fiscal year that you're in now, we've paid $12,000 worth of bills from the sanitary district from 2018. So we're all caught up with outstanding bills to the district, and we have about $32,000 to pay any incoming bills that might come in from the district this year. So we're approaching it separately than this invoice. So this invoice is kind of an anomaly that's standing out there. On the back page of this, I have included an email that I received from Jim Katsafikas. And as you may recall, Jim is an attorney that's done some work for us on utilities in the past. And he gives a pretty long answer there, but I highlighted his point at the bottom of the first page of that email. It says, until the district shows you the actual cost for services rendered for items related to storm service, water drains, treatment plants, and so forth, it hasn't shown you why Madison should pay this assessment. So that's pretty much the back work that I've done on this. So I just wanted to share that as information. If the board had any questions.
So our obligation is $107,000, which we do not have. We have until September 10th to pay this, and then it becomes what they want to do from there. Is that-
Right.
That's the way we're reading it?
That's the way I read it, and that, again, if it's not paid by the first part of September or the September 10th on that invoice, I would assume that they would deal with it internally like they deal with other customers. I can share that I got a phone call from the town of Anson today, and since their town meeting was in March, they've received a couple of these bills, and the latest bill did have a late fee. attached to the bill, Nancy.
All right, so, now I understand what he said on here about, you have to make, you have to have a list of what they've done for services to that. Now, that has not been the practice in the past.
Well, technically it has. The only difference is they provided invoices for services rendered,
Okay.
but we've held them until our next fiscal year. So the difficulty for the sanitary district is we've held those invoices for sometimes 18 months. Well, now with the funds that we have had approved at town meeting, we don't have to wait that 18 months. Say they spend $12,000 to clean out storm drains. And they can send us an invoice, and as long as it's less than 30,000, we can pay that right away. What I am recommending to the sanitary district through Dale Clark, their superintendent, is that they work on creating an itemized bill, saying this is what we really spent to treat stormwater, and this is what Madison's assessed for.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none. That's awesome.
That's the last item.
Okay, new business.
Review final budget expenditures for 2019.
Would like to welcome, I noticed some of our local businesses and local East Madison residents came in, so welcome, glad you're here. You get to enjoy some of the excitement of budget review prior to the matching grant applications. In that handout that some of you have with the yellow on it, this is essentially where every article finished at the end of the fiscal year. One of the warrant packets that you just signed included all the final 2019 fiscal year budget items, so we can say that the past fiscal year is closed and this is how we ended up. If you look at the net remainder column all the way to the right-hand side, if it's in a positive, that means that there was a remainder of funds as there was under Article 5 and Article 6. Article 7 is the one that we will need to deal with on the next item, where our waste disposal fees at Waste Management exceeded what we had budgeted. And so that line is overdraft by $22,000. Article 8, Public Works came in good, Recreation came in fine, cemeteries had a good $60 left over in cemeteries. Community services and town-owned property, we had $63 left over in town-owned property. So non-capital budget was about 99% spent with about 35,000 plus left over. And capital was about 99% spent with $3,300 left over. So
We're too close.
it is a tight budget, and we run very tight budgets over the last 2 years, primarily because we did not want to raise taxes. So,
All right, any other questions? Mr. Wise?
This 30 grand that Jeff kindly gave us back because of his efficient running the town road department, what happens to that money? Is that gonna go to general fund?
you're gonna vote on it in a couple minutes.
Oh, okay.
I'm not getting that.
You're not giving it back?
Any money that's not carried forward does go to the general fund.
But we're thinking about that tonight, right?
You're
Carrying
gonna discuss that.
Number 3, I believe. Right?
Okay.
All right, number 2, discuss fiscal year 2019 overdraft.
So as I referred to, Article 7, other government, the way it was set up in the past budget, we overspent it by $22,096.50. Fortunately, you selectmen were wise enough to put an article in the town meeting that gave you the authorization to move money from the general fund to cover an overdraft up to $25,000. So Tammy and I have drafted a resolution. If you so choose to do this, if you don't choose to do this tonight, then we would have to either call a special town meeting or carry this on the books through the audit all the way to the next town meeting.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to authorize the overdraft amount of $22,096.58.
So that money goes, what happens then? We spent that line,
We've already spent it, it was
It
not budgeted for.
so we're just taking it up from 25 grand, put it back in surplus.
You're authorizing that monies from the general fund be used to cover that $22,000.
So the money just sits in the same account, basically.
Money's already spent, it's already been issued to the
Yeah.
contractors.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to authorize the overdraft amount of $22,096.58. Any other questions?
We'll just add to that motion that it will be taken from the general fund.
Yes, as monies from the town's general fund will be used to cover the overdraft of $22,096.58 as approved by the selectmen tonight. Mr. Elias?
We set up a line item for that, did we, Tammy? Is there a line with that 25 grand sitting in it?
No.
It just authorizes us to use up to that amount.
So if you look at the whole budget, say the whole budget was 500,000, and we kind of pulled from all our departments, but we underspent, we still have 35 left over, but we went over in that one article.
Okay. Yeah, because we do not have the authority to spend one nickel over what they pass at town meeting. But you must have had a sneaky suspicion that this was gonna happen before town meeting.
This is the wisdom of the selectmen, that's all I can say.
Yeah, okay, don't take credit for it.
Watch it, George, you want something.
I'll just add that I'm not signing it.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, number 3, discuss carry forward amounts.
There we go. Mr. Elias was wondering what we're gonna do with all that leftover money, so.
Yeah.
I'll wait till all the information gets down to Mr. Moody there.
This one's got something on it.
Yeah, 22,000.
So what you're looking at here is the estimated surplus of every department. And in the kind of the lower 2/3 there, the numbers that are not in boxes, that 35,471, that was the total amount of money unspent in this budget. And so even though the department heads could have asked for more money, I didn't think it was right to try to carry forward more than that 35,471. So if you look at what the department heads have requested for highway, fire, admin, recreation, and library, it just so happens to total $35,000 each.
Amazing how that works.
So what the department heads and I are recommending is that the board authorize a carry forward of $35,000 in non-capital items to be distributed as presented.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for discussion.
All right. Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to carry forward 35,000. Should I break it into Public Works at $30,519.57?
No. Those are just the estimated numbers that they
I'm
could
sorry.
have.
Let's go with the 35,000.
35,000 is broken up to
Let's go with the 35.
those projects.
Trying to get you guys a little more.
Yeah.
All right, questions, Mr. Elias?
Down on the bottom, road surface, is that part of the 35,000?
No.
No, that will be a separate motion because that's
Oh,
capital.
this is different because it's capital?
We're doing non-capital and capital. So your motion is for the 35,000
Okay.
non-capital.
I need you to start your spiel all over again, because you said something, I gotta listen to it again. Start telling us again why we have this.
So down here where it says
No, I got you.
35,000,
Yeah.
that's what was unspent.
Right,
Even if you figure in the overage you just allowed of the 22,000 for waste management, this is all the money that was left unspent. So I go
okay,
to,
so wait a minute, excuse me. We have like a $2-point-something million budget,
yep,
and we got it to $35,000?
we spent 99%. That was that pretty yellow spreadsheet we just looked at.
That's it, I'm done.
So each one of these items are items that the department have recommended that they would need extra funds to spend in their particular categories.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Wise?
So in other words, our chairman wants to give the library $2,500 when all they're asking for is $950.
No.
I-
Well,
I
he
read
used
it
misspeaking.
wrong. Yeah, I read it wrong, Mr. Wise, sorry.
So each of these categories is what was left in that article. So there's a separate article for public works, for public safety, general government, recreation, community program.
So the library needs extra janitorial? They
They're
did
going-
not have enough in their budget?
Actually, they overspent, because their janitorial does more than just janitorial work. He also does building repairs and mowing and that sort of thing. It's different than the janitorial that the other buildings in town have.
Okay.
Mr. Savage?
That was kind of my question where George was just going with that is, was all these lines overspent in this current, yeah, just went by?
Most of these lines were spent pretty much to the max or overspent. Onto the highway, we did overspend our diesel this year, and we're concerned that the price of diesel may go up next year. We did use all of our gravel. The road commissioner shared some projects that he's got that may need some additional gravel. Signs, we'll be talking about parking signs, and that's where some of this money will go, is for parking and no parking signs. And road paint and special projects, that's been a category that is spent to the max just about every year for other items that come up that aren't anticipated. And this board has made it a priority to make sure we get the road lines painted on a regular basis. Under admin for general government, we have several computers that are no longer supported by Microsoft Windows 7 or Windows XP anymore, and so we have to upgrade them all to Windows 10.
Mr. Wise?
Just one more thing. What are we gonna do with the fire department that says building?
One of the things Don wants to do is, over the course of the next couple of years, install safety measures on all the doors, all the large doors that come down. Right now, there's no radar, no laser line that cuts it off if somebody should walk in front of it.
All right.
So it's about $1,500 per door. He'd like to do a door a year for the next 3 years.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no other questions, all those in favor of the carry forward in the non-capital account of $35,000? All in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
So now we'll need a capital expenses motion for $33,8263. Traditionally, the board has carried forward all the remaining capital so that projects can be done without raising extra money from taxation.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to carry over the road surface management, I guess it would be, and the capital accounts. So do we have something specific for this? Or is this part of the total that we'll do?
There are a number of projects that this money could go to.
Yeah, we have quite a few. One of the things I was considering was finishing Kennebec Street, a sidewalk on Kennebec Street. To finish that project, we do half the work, we save half the money, the original quote I had got from the paving contractor, and that would make a nice loop for people to finish walking Pine Street down to Old Point and continue, because we just, I don't know if anybody's been down that road lately, we've done quite a bit of work on that the last couple of months, as far as repairing, repaving, and
Pine Street?
Kennebec Street.
Kennebec Street.
Yeah. That's one of the projects. There are a few other small ones around town, sidewalk between Bean Street, on Bean Street, between Maple Street and Madison Avenue, that little short section. And a few other small projects downtown.
Mr. Moody?
Are we addressing somewhat part of the sidewalk every year now?
This year we have, we did the section in front of the Big Apple and the Subway, that the town did their portion, the business paid for the rest of it. We have a section in front of 1 Madison Avenue that needs to be done, right around, from the entrance to the building around the corner down Main Street, that's gonna be redone, that money's set aside. far as other sidewalks the last few years, that's been it. And Bean Street, a couple of years ago.
I would prefer to see something every year in relationship to the sidewalk. How big, how small, whatever. So maybe we can kind of catch up a little bit, 'cause some of them are rough.
Yeah, Madison Avenue and Maple Street need some attention.
Yeah.
Those would be the next on the list to be done. I did get a budget price per foot to have them done. We could set some money aside at some point in time to, move forward with those.
I think if we do something every year, we're gonna be ahead of the game. As long as we're doing something.
We also removed the sidewalk on the east side of Madison Avenue too. I mean, so that was a fairly large project
That was
last
a
year, the year
project,
before
yeah,
that.
last year we did that.
Yeah. I mean, we have done some things there, but I think a plan would be good to see if we can come up with a plan to, get the sidewalks in shape.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to carry forward capital expenses of $3,382.63. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move forward to number 4, discuss matching grant applications.
So in your packets is a summary sheet of the 7 applications that were received. At this point, it is your program as the Board of Selectmen. There's $25,000 that's been set aside for this. There are roughly, call it $35,000 worth of requests.
All right, any motion or any questions? Mr. Elias?
Yeah, what is this asking us to do? Approve 25,000?
Right.
Well, the select board's already approved $25,000.
What are we asking for?
These are the applications that have come in. And you as a board generally approve what applications receive from
You mean which one we fund?
which ones are from. That's correct. And I will say that you can choose to do it in many different ways. All of these applications are fairly similar. I think all of these applications are fairly competitive. If you wanted to award every individual or every business here, you could take that 25,000 and divide it by 7. It's up to you as to how you want to move forward.
Yes.
Other than Renee, are any other business owners here?
I believe that Dr. Hinton is here from the
I just don't know.
chiropractor,
Okay.
Spinology, and I believe Faith Gilman is here from the Wicked Lettuce on the corner of Main and Maple. And they'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Is there any thought into dividing the 25 by 7 and giving everybody a portion of it? I mean, is that something the board would take up, or do we want to pick out 2 and do it? You want to go down through the list and do it one by one? Yes.
Tim, have you had any conversation if they didn't get this amount, if they could actually complete their projects?
For the most part, and I'll have some of the business owners answer that question, the ones that are here, but for the most part, the ones that aren't here that I've talked to, I'll give the Economy Trophy Bob Agopian as an example, and Maine Cedar Hot Tubs, the Meisners, as examples. These are projects that they've had on their list to do for years. And it's just been a matter of money has been, allocated elsewhere. So my guess is if those grants were funded, at least they would have the resources to get it done within the year. And if any of the other businesses want to answer that question from their perspectives, we'd be welcome to hear.
Well, I don't have a choice, I need a new roof, so it's gonna happen one way or the other.
But I guess the point I'm making is I hate to award everyone just a little bit less than this and none of them can do any of the projects.
That's
Don't
true.
make a lot of sense.
You can look at it in a couple of different ways. Some of these projects help new businesses that are just getting started, like Dr. Niffen's, for example. Some of these projects will enhance the look of the downtown, such as the project for the old Western Auto Building and for the Blackwell Building where the Economy Trophy is. So there's benefits. I did send out this information to members of the Business Alliance, and they gave me some of their comments back, and that's somewhat of what they were saying.
Moody?
Tim, this money, is there anything attached to this money as far as, do they have a period of time to use it? It's required that they are in business and established for at least 5 years?
Well, there's no establishment for applying for the grant, so a business can be new and apply for a grant. However, we did put some stipulations in there. You have 1 year from the award, so they'd have a year from July to finish the project. And we did put a stipulation in that if the business did not open or the business went out of business within a certain period of time, there is a payback provision, which, you know, how much authority that really has, we've never had to do it, so we don't really know.
I guess I'll make a motion. I don't usually do this, but I will. I'll make a motion to award Economy Trophy, Hearth and Home Realty, Maine Cedar Hot Tubs, and R&B Home Source. And that would be a total of, what, 14, 9, 20, 46, 5.
Everybody get your phone out.
19,570.
Yep.
All right, I will make that a motion for those 4. Because I guess my idea is I can see that what they're doing to enhance their building, and I'm not gonna make it a secret that I'm not a person who's in favor of buying equipment. I've seen it. We saw the ice cream truck. We saw the ice cream. I apologize to Dr. Niffen, but I saw the ice cream truck right down the road with the truck right down with the ice cream machine in the back at Muscogee, and that's been kind of a bone of contention with me since then. But I'll make that, and that's a total of I believe $19,570, and then we can talk about the rest of it. Any seconds?
I just have a question. What did you say? Economy Trophy?
Economy Trophy, Home and Hearth Realty, Maine Cedar Hot Tubs, and R&B Home Source.
For what?
For a total of, well, whatever they're asking for, and it comes to $19,570.
So we still have 5,000 more.
Right.
But currently there's no second to Mr. Vinziano's.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. Any questions? And then we can talk about, somebody else can make a motion for the other one.
So essentially what you've done with your motion is you've laid out a priority.
In my opinion, yes. Yep. Okay, any other questions? Mr. Moody?
I just hate to see those that are asking for money for building upgrades and repainting, which is an eye enhancement to Main Street. I hate to see them not get anything.
I mean, we do have 5,000 left, and 6,000 left, so I mean, we can talk about after we get done here with this motion. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the 4 that I have made a motion for?
Say that again?
All those in favor of the motion that I
Oh,
just made?
I'm busy reading.
Yep.
I'm in favor of it.
Opposed? Are you in favor, Mr. Moody?
I'm in
All
favor.
right, all in favor, the motion is carried. Okay, so now we have for $6,430. Is that how you read it? No, 5,000.
5,000.
5,000. I tried the new math. $5,430. Mr. Moody.
I would like to make a motion into splitting that for the two that are doing the building upgrades or repaint exteriors.
2715 each.
Yes.
You're talking Brookside and Wicked and Lettuce?
And see if they're going to be able to do anything with that. Are they gonna be able to, or is it, if they're not gonna be able to, then tell us so that we can put it someplace else.
Your thoughts?
I mean, it'll help, we're gonna try to get it done regardless, I mean, it's pretty in disrepair, on Main Street. So we're still gonna try, but I mean, any help we can get certainly goes a long way.
Okay, so we have a motion, but no second, for $27.15 for each one of the Brookside Family Dental and Wicked Lettuce Smoke Shop. Second?
I'll second it for
All
discussion.
right, second.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Wise, sorry.
Seeing as I'm old and forgetful, where did the 25,000 come from? Why is that all we did not know who was going to apply, correct?
Nope.
Had we have known this, could we have put more in?
Well, it's really, you can't really do that because we could have got 10 applications, could have got 12 applications. I think you were on the board when we did the first one or the last one a few years ago.
Probably the first one.
We've done 4 rounds of this matching grant program, and sometimes the town had up to $50,000 set aside in TIF by the select. As we went through the Madison paper abatement thing and all that, we kind of put that on the back burner. And we didn't do one, we haven't done one since 15 or 16, I think. And so, when we were discussing, when the board was discussing the economic development budget, there was no money in for matching grants. And several of the selectmen and the town office had heard from people saying, are you gonna do a matching grant program again? And so, Mr. Moody just got done asking about sidewalks. Some of our TIF money goes towards sidewalks, and actually we had taken out matching grant money to do more sidewalks. So it's one of those things, you've only got so much of a pot to spend there. And so we were able to move some things around and get $25,000 to bring back a kind of edited version of what the town had done in the past. And I was actually very pleased to see 7 good quality applications. It would have been easier if there were only 5, but we got 7.
I kind of agree with the old Western Auto Building needs work. That's the one you have
Yes.
on the corner?
I don't think that's been paid since it was built.
We're putting on all new truck decking on both the decks in the front. We're having the entire building repaired, all the wood, and having it sanded and repainted. Did I ask a question? Is that allowed?
Sure.
On Economy Trophy, I'm just curious because he said he was approved in 2015, but he never started the project. Is there any guarantee that he's gonna do the same this time? Because we're starting our project Monday. So I'm just curious about that, and I'm not sure why. I just wanna make sure, because we're ready to do this, so.
I assume that he's going to start when the funds are available. I mean,
Well, we're
just like,
definitely gonna
just
start.
like, I know, but everybody, I make the assumption that everybody's going to start when that happens. And I just think that that building also needs tremendous repair, to, and it's a pretty big building, as is the
Oh,
Western
I
Auto
understand,
building,
yeah.
you know, but, so.
I just would hate for him to do the same and then it's, you know, it could have went to something that, you know, will be getting done this August. That's all.
All right, so we have a motion to award 15 to Brookside Dental and Wicked Lettuce Smoke Shop for repairs out of the TIF account. Any other questions? I mean, I don't know, would it be wise for us to send Tim back and look for a little more money before we do anything with these? I mean, I don't know, is there any more money? I mean,
That was that was basically my
I
question.
mean, you're talking $9,500 more to do all
To do all the requests, that's
all
right.
the requests.
All of them?
Right, to do all the requests takes about $35,000 or
An
$34,000.
added $9,500
Right.
An additional to what has been approved.
Right.
to approve all of the.
All of them.
Right. If you did that out of the TIF budget, you would be taking money away from other things, such as River Road work, sidewalk work, Madison Anson days, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Could we table this until the next meeting so you could show us what we're gonna use?
So we'll need a motion to
I make a motion to table to the next meeting.
So the other thing is, if you do that, you have businesses that are planning on starting projects soon.
If I was starting a project and if I got $5,000 next month, I couldn't care less. I mean, I'd start it anyway.
Okay.
No?
Well, the problem is that we can't start the project until you decide who gets the grant, so I have to push off
Oh, another
starting.
month. Another 2 weeks.
It'll be 3 weeks. till
3
the next
weeks.
meeting. Right.
Yeah, our contractors, you know, ready to go. I mean, I suppose I could, but that's part of it, was the stipulation, you had to wait until you got awarded to actually start.
Can we make a motion to, I think get a second on the table, right?
So-
So we don't have to worry about that right now.
So,
Sorry, George.
hold on.
I forget my thing.
So so there's 4 that have already been approved.
Right.
So regardless of what you table, that's already been approved.
Right.
So the only thing that you would consider tabling is what to do with the other 3.
Right.
Well, I say we look at the other 2.
Well, I mean, I think we gotta consider all 3.
Well, I agree with Mr. Moody, you know, to make the town look better, you get that big, excuse me, eyesore on the
Oh,
corner.
listen, I have swatches, you wanna see the swatches? It's really gonna be pretty.
And the top person is looking to get a dentist in there, right?
Right.
And repair that building. I'd say both of those 2 are pretty important. So we're just talking about $5 grand from somewhere, right?
Yeah, 4570. That would be for Brookside and Wicked Lettuce to fund them fully. All right, so a motion for 2715 for each of those. All right, all those in favor of that?
I'll vote for it. Something better than nothing.
No, we have to vote for that, Joe, we have to vote that. If you
I'm
wanna
voting it right now.
No, if you wanna vote no, that's fine, we can ask him to go back and look again.
Seems to me we can still ask them to go back, and if we can find another, what, 2285 apiece.
So 4570. Okay. All right, so we have a motion, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. I'm gonna ask the town manager to go back and see if he can find another 4570 somewhere.
Okay.
So is the chiropractic office not even considered then, or?
I'm- respectfully, I don't go along with equipment. I just don't, again, I saw the ice cream machine riding, and I'm not saying you would do that at all, but it was very disheartening that we gave the guy $5,000 and he just took it to Skowhegan and hooked it up. And that's my part on that equipment. And as far as fixing something, painting or a roof or anything like that, or tar, I mean, we can see that in town. And that's just my personal opinion. They can all speak for themselves. So,
It's a competitive grant process. And
Yeah, no,
and that's the criteria, so.
any other questions? Okay, so we'll ask the town manager to see if we can find that, and we'll move forward. Thank you. All right, number 5, discuss interest rate for revolving loan fund.
So according to our revolving loan paperwork, the selectmen set the interest rate annually. Just for clarification, the town did work out a loan agreement with the new potential owners of Madison Paper. That did not come from this revolving loan account. That was a special loan with funds that came from the federal government. So that's a separate entity. And that rate is set on prime rate. So the revolving loan that we give to local businesses, the rate is set by you, the select board. And so some of the discussion has gone back and forth to, we set it at a prime rate, like 6%, which is what the current rate is, or does the town try to incentivize that rate to make it a lower rate? The question has always been bounced back and forth is, should the town be in the business of competing with local banks, or should this be an incentive that the town offers to businesses?
So we have a cap on how much money can be borrowed,
Currently, we have a cap of $15,000.
and we have how much money available.
Mr. Vinziano, I have a question.
How much money do we have available in this account?
To loan out,
Yes.
we have $79,874.98. Including that total is $11,873 interest we've earned so far.
Okay, so we have some money there. And our max is 15,000.
Our current max is 15.
All right. Mr. Moody?
What is the town charging for interest rates on that?
6%.
Currently, we're
Currently
charging
6%, that's what we want to set today.
Right.
That's what we want to
And
set tonight.
every July, the board has the option of setting that rate, the same or different.
I guess I don't understand that if the town is trying to help out small business, how are you lending them money and charging them interest? To me, you ain't helping them out.
Normally, and I'll just say this with the caveat, the town has not issued a loan in about 4 years. Primarily because the town did not want to compete with local banks. If a person has good credit and they're able to go to the bank and get a loan, why would they come to the town? The only reason they come to the town is if it was a 0% loan. So you'd be taking money, business away from a local business. So the revolving loan has sat there as an option for a gap funding. Say a business wants to buy a building and buy some equipment and the bank will only loan them 80%. Or perhaps the town can loan them at 6%, an extra $10,000 or $15,000, and they can get that project done. That's been the traditional approach in the past.
I still don't agree with it.
It's gap funding, that's what a lot of revolving loans
But I mean, traditional or not, I think that rate's too high
Okay.
for the businesses. I mean, these businesses is what's bringing the tax dollars into this town. I don't want to penalize them.
Mr. Wise?
We have no security on that money, right?
Very little. Usually, if it's a gap funding, then the bank has the first position. So we would come in as a second or third position. If the loan is for equipment, sometimes you can tie a lien to the equipment. But these revolving loan accounts that municipalities and counties and COGS those are all very risky. And in many cases, they go to default. And I will say that our revolving loan account, one of the reasons we stopped loaning money is we've written off $30,000 in the last 10 years.
Well, in my opinion, if we're gonna write off $30,000, we might as well give it to people like this right here. You know, I mean, it doesn't even make sense to me. You're gonna give them $5,000, you know you're not gonna get paid back anyway because it's a grant.
Right.
I mean, that makes more sense to me than, fighting over. These people are gonna get stuff done to enhance the town. There's other people, it's just a gamble.
But these are the programs that the town has that have been approved by the board to work with. You have the matching grant program, you have the revolving loan program. Those are the two-
Approved by the board that can change them.
That's exactly right. So if you want to change it,
We're sitting here scratching our head asking how we can help everybody out. I see money here sitting there we're probably never gonna use. $11,000 interest.
So is that money possible to be moved to something else? I mean,
actually, the interest money, so give a little more background on the revolving loan account. The revolving loan account was started with money from TIF and with a $50,000 grant from USDA. That $50,000 grant from USDA has strings attached. If we ever stop and close that revolving loan, we have to give a certain amount of money back to USDA. So it's in our best interest to get the interest out of that balance. So if you wanted, as the selectmen, to take that $10,000 interest, put it into the current matching grant program, you may have your money to fund these programs.
We may have the money to fund what programs? Oh, over here? Oh, I see.
is that something we want to do?
In my opinion, yeah, it is.
We're making a motion.
I'll make the motion that we fund, how many are there? 6? 7?
Well, there were 3 unfunded.
So it's $9,000. $9,570.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we fund the last 3 that we didn't fund before fully.
$9,570 from the interest from the revolving loan fund.
Can you make a motion that we just take the interest out of the revolving loan and to designate it over to a certain account?
I can.
Yeah.
And I'll add that to my motion.
Yeah. So essentially, that motion will be to clear out the interest from the revolving loan account
No,
and
not
put it
just
into
clear out the
and
interest.
put it into the matching grant fund,
Correct.
from which you will now have the funds. Once you pass this motion, you'll have the funds to go back and award those grants.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion to take the interest from the revolving loan fund and move it into the matching grant fund. All of the interest.
Yes.
I have a question. Are you allowed to do that with a revolving loan to move it to a TIP account?
Yes. Because it's already in the account.
Or matching revolving loan?
Revolving loan is in the TIF account. And so, well, no.
No, it's
you're
not.
right. But the revolving loan funds are under the authority of the selectmen.
Correct. Okay.
Okay, so we're moving the matching, we're moving the revolving loan interest to the TIF account for the matching grant program.
Correct.
All right,
That's my motion.
okay, so we have a motion and a second on that. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. So, our next, and we do have to get back to the original question here, setting the interest rate, but we'll get back to that in a second. So we have now to fund $9,570 for Brookside, Spinology, Chiropractic, and Wicked Lettuce Smoke Shop. To
No, we're
finish
gonna
those
fund
off.
5, and something else, right?
Well, no.
Those all 5s?
No, it's 20,
Right, so you have already approved.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right, so he's asking you to approve the balance.
$9,570, I believe it is.
Right.
All right,
I'll make that motion.
okay, we have a motion. All right. Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to finish funding these requests for grants. And
is for to finish Brookside Family Dental, to finish Wicked Lettuce, and to add Spinology Chiropractic. Hang around long enough, I guess.
The wheels of public property.
Yes. All right, any other questions? Mr. Elias?
Now, with that comes a letter that they have to spend this money within a year?
Right, the project has to be done within a year.
All right.
They don't receive the funds until the project's done and they send the invoices in showing that they've spent their 10,000 plus.
All right,
And
okay.
then,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
that
right,
approval comes back to you to
Right.
write the check.
okay.
No, I'm going to vote for this. If I see the chiropractic machine going down the road, I'm gonna be chasing it.
Just don't hurt your back in the front.
All right, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Now, let's get back to the real question. We need to have an interest rate for the revolving loan fund. So does somebody have a number?
I'll make a motion 1%.
I'll second that.
That piqued everybody's interest over here.
What's you hang out?
Yeah,
We're here, please.
we are here to help, but I mean, we're gonna be so low in the totem pole that we don't have a chance.
Albert, whether you have 1% or 60% or 10%, if they can't make the payment, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 10%.
I know that, but if you go to the bank and you ask the bank, and they say that there's a gap in the funding, and then they come to us, it's different.
Keeping in mind that if they go to the bank and the bank doesn't loan them the whole thing, they probably can't pay for it anyway. So I even question doing this.
We're making judgment, though, I don't.
Well, does the bank make judgments?
Well, I know, but we're not,
A bank.
we're
Right.
not set up to make those judgments. I mean, I don't know, we don't get the financials that the bank has. And there must be a reason that they're stopping at certain points.
Mhm.
You were sitting too close to Jack.
No, I think any bank is gonna tell you that, though. Not just our friends at Skelly and Savings, any bank is gonna tell you that, but we can, yes.
So one of the things I've been thinking about is if the board wanted to reconfigure this revolving loan account a little bit, I'm concerned about loaning $15,000 at 1%. And what about if the board reconfigured it to make them $5,000 1% loans for equipment purchases only? That way you're not worried about being second or third on a mortgage somewhere. You can lien the equipment if you wanted to, and that would help businesses.
Like the ice cream truck going down the street.
But if that ice cream truck goes down the street and you've got a 1% loan, you stand a better chance of getting some of your money back. The ice cream machine that we granted and went down the street, we didn't stand any chance of getting that money back.
We offer 1%.
1%, 5,000, equipment only.
So now we're cutting back from 15 to 5.
Yeah, I just, in my opinion, I wouldn't expose $15,000 for 1%.
I wouldn't expose them to 10%. We're not gonna get it anyway, we're not gonna pay it. I just don't get it. It's hard for me to understand that. We lost 30 grand. If it was 6%, what'd we make? Can you answer that?
$11,000, we just switched it over.
No, that's the money sitting there, doing
Plus the
that.
interest.
Yeah, and you just granted the money to people, so that's kind of a payoff.
Kathy,
there.
if we give you 15 grand at 1%, okay, we're definitely way back at the bank. Whether we give it to you 15% or 1%. If you can't pay it, you're not gonna pay it.
Most of our revolving loan percentage-wise, most of it has been paid back.
Right.
And that's how you just gave some of that grant money. You just put some of that back into grant money.
Right.
And you just gave it out to people for grant money. So that's a win-win. That's
What's-
a win-win right there.
What's more of a
If you only
win,
get 1%, that interest was really way down, and you didn't have enough to fund all those grant issues.
what's more of a win to me is take it out of that revolving loan fund, put it in the grant thing.
But we can't join because we would have to pay this
Then
back.
how much? What do we owe?
If we were to dissolve that revolving loan balance, and you just told us it was $70,000, $60,000 in there.
Yeah, so there's,
77,000.
yeah, so there's outstanding 32,000 right now.
But, I'm sorry, how much money is left in the
79,
But that included that 11,000 interest?
yes.
So there's really $68,000 because we've just moved the interest. So if we were to say to USDA, oh, by the way, we've closed our revolving loan account, they'll say, what was your balance? And that will say $68,000. They would do a calculation and say, okay, you owe us 40 grand. Because they have to do a calculation based on what they gave and what percentage it was. So they're gonna take a chunk of that back.
But this whole thing is a fallacy because you've had this money sitting there for 4 years, you haven't lent out. You haven't lent out a dime.
Right, we have one large active loan that's still making
Okay, so
payments.
when do you get to the point where it's considered dead and you're not gonna do it, and you just sit there and it's making interest? It's making interest right now, right? It's made $11,000, right?
Well, those are the payments from a loan that's still outstanding. Right.
All fine and dandy.
Yeah.
I wanna know is how long can we sit on this money without dissolving the revolving loan fund?
Essentially forever.
Well, there you go.
Or you could put it out in small loans.
We can keep 10 grand in there for the revolving loan fund and put the rest of it to these grants. So,
When's the last time someone's applied for this grant?
For a loan or for a grant?
For the loan.
For a loan, I think the board looked at one about 3 years ago. It was very shaky and they did not go through.
Can I ask a question? Yep. What do you need for the loan? What's the qualifying?
there you go, right there. That's a good question.
Can I just ask you to come in and see Tim? Later.
Essentially, it's a 2 or 3 page application.
Okay.
Credit scores, tax returns, that sort of thing.
So we have a motion on the floor to set the interest rate at 1% for the revolving loan fund. All right, Mr. Elias.
If we're gonna look at doing this, and we're gonna look at what Kim just said, then we need to look at the whole picture. If we set 1% and we haven't changed the amount of money, it's gonna be 15,000 at 1%.
Right.
So we need to do one thing first and then set the interest rate. So if you're just gonna go to $5,000, is that all we're gonna do? But right now we have paperwork that says 10 to 15,000. So this is kind of putting the cart before the horse, isn't it?
This board has the authority to change, just like you've done tonight, the matching grant program or the revolving loan program. It all comes back to you. You can change it all with one motion tonight, or you could say, let's bring it back and look at the whole thing. But basically, in a one-page summary, it's a $15,000 loan, 5 years is the maximum term, and you set the interest rate.
So if we don't change the interest rate tonight, it will stay at 6%
That's
until we
correct.
come back. I think probably we should, if we're gonna look at what Tim said, we should come back at another meeting and talk about that a little bit instead of just going in there. So we take that,
I'll make a motion that we bring this back up at our next meeting, so that we can have Kathy and Tammy hammer us on the reasons why we need to do this.
okay, so first off, we
I
gotta
love
get,
these women, but we're gonna get hammered on.
Mr. Elias,
I mean,
can we take your motion off the floor?
yeah,
We
my
don't need-
prior
we don't-
motion.
Okay, we don't need a motion.
No, never mind the 1%.
You taking yours off, your second, or was it you the second, Mr.
Mr.
Murphy?
Murphy,
second.
Okay, Mr.
Oh, Ron.
All right, taking that off the floor. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the town manager to come back with some more information on interest rates plus changing it to 5 or some other figure.
And let's look at how we can more protect ourselves.
Yep.
That's more important than anything, I think.
Mr. Moody?
At the next meeting, I think we got 2 people sitting right here that are gonna answer all those questions for us.
Right, but I think Tim needs to do some background and.
Oh, I
find
agree
some
with
stuff
you, but
out
I'm
there.
saying, what your intent has been, or is right now, I think all the answers are right here.
Yeah, I think there's some very smart people.
All right here. Now, we've planted the seed, and we'll see it grow until the next meeting.
Yep, see? See, nothing wrong with that. Mr. Savage?
There's the cultivators
My
right
only
here.
thought on the 1% is, we gotta look at what it costs to administer it, I don't think 1%.
Well, you.
Okay, so let's focus here a second. So, Mr. Savage, can you say that again for us?
No, never mind, that's next time.
No?
I heard it.
When we do the research on this, I don't think the 1% is gonna cover the cost to administer these loans. So I guess we should look at the work, town manager, Tammy, Kathy, whoever puts into this, to make sure we can at least cover that cost when we're setting interest rates.
And I guess it's a 5%, a $5,000 loan or not to make a difference. Is that gonna do anything for you? I is that gonna do anything for people? So, okay, wow, that was a lot of fun. All right, so our original question here is not gonna be answered tonight. So let's go discuss burials at East Madison Cemetery.
Let's talk about something easy, let's talk about something.
Yes. Oh,
And just for the record, Mr. Moody, where do you think I go when Mr. Vinziano tells me to go do research?
These two ladies right here.
I'm just reassuring everything, that's all.
All right, I'll let Tammy fill in some of the blanks on this, but the gist of it is, we've had some requests for new burials at the East Madison Cemetery. That's the one right over here that at the backside, we have access through the landowner to the backside of the dam. So this is as long as everybody knows what we're talking about. So,
Tammy, what do you think?
You should have in your packet, sketch that Mike Rickard drew out. Yeah, that's Mike.
Yeah, that's a heck of a sketch.
I know, huh? So the one that is not darkened, that's Jeff and Mike going out to find the pins, showing Glenn is a plot already. The next, what says 10, 3, and 10 is a possibility of a new section right there. And then you have a 7-foot walkway, and then you have the water on one side, and then a turnaround that will have to be made. And that's something that Mike and Jeff have talked about, bringing some gravel in there. Also to appease the landowner so people don't turn around in the field, we're talking about putting a small L-shaped fence in there, which isn't marked on here. But it would be an L-shaped fence just supposed to guide the cars where to park. If you look down in the shaded area, you'll see the Glen lot and then some rows 48 by 8 by 7 and 8. We're looking to put cremations only. So everything would be flat markers, easy for mowing, a walkway in between, turnaround that Jeff would bring in some gravel for. We'd also need to cut some trees that have crossed the road a little bit for the right of way. And that would make it easier for people to get in there. I have 6 residents that have called to do cremations only so far. Nothing has been full burials for a request, and I would put a stipulation that it only be cremations and only flat markers in there, just for the location.
Any questions?
so we would need a motion to approve a cremation-only section at the East Madison Cemetery, as presented.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to create a cremation-only section in the East Madison Cemetery. Mr. Moody?
Is there any more area in here for burial?
That will be it.
That'll close that cemetery when
Yes.
that's full?
Yep.
Okay,
Except for if people had plots already and they're gonna continue filling them.
yeah,
Yes.
all right.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor of the motion carries. Okay, number 7, discuss parking enforcement.
As you recall, at the last meeting, we had a conversation about parking, signs, enforcement, that sort of thing. In your packet is a draft memo. I met with the sheriff and we discussed this process, that if a vehicle is parked in violation, the sheriff's office will dispatch a deputy, and the evidence for a violation will include the signature of a witness. So if it's a 2-hour parking violation, and a business owner on Main Street says, hey, this car's been parked here all day, the deputy can come over and say, do you sign as a witness? And that business owner or whoever will say, yes, it's been parked here all day. The deputy will issue a ticket. At that point, the sheriff's office is out of it. The collection of the ticket will come to the town office. The clerk and treasurer will figure out a way for where that money will be deposited. And on the ticket, which the town will generate the tickets, not the sheriff's office, so that they'll be clearly noted on the ticket where to go to pay and where to go to dispute it. In the ordinance that was passed at town meeting, it says that the town manager handles all disputes. So it doesn't go back to the sheriff's office. So that's essentially, I think, a best scenario, because if you're trying to educate people as to where they can park on Main Street, especially if they're apartment dwellers, we want to be able to have that conversation, and the ordinance gives the town manager the leeway to do what they want to do with that parking fine. So they could use it as just a warning and dismiss the fine, or if it's a perpetual offender, they could continue the fine.
And I'm under the impression that in educating the people, that there's no enforcement action or fines being taken until the first of the year?
That was something that this board discussed last time. In the meantime, the road commissioner has done some research on signs. He's found some signs that say 2-hour parking that could be put back down in the downtown area. And in that carry forward line, we put some additional funds to go purchase more signs. So I would assume, if I'm reading the board correctly, the rollout would be the signs go up, and education goes on for 6 months or so. And then once you reach the new year, January 1st, then enforcement would begin.
That's my understanding.
Okay. So this draft that I put together would be a procedure
Yes.
that the sheriff's office and the town office would follow. The only blank in that draft is how much is a parking violation ticket. I would recommend one price, $1 amount, not a sliding scale. That would be a little more confusing to enforce. And the ordinance gives the select board the authority to set that number. If you want to do it tonight, that's fine. If you want to wait till later in the year. But eventually, we're going to need a number so that we can generate the tickets, because we're going to have to get the tickets.
What is it, I mean, what are we talking $25? I mean, we talking 10? I mean, what is somebody?
Have you checked other towns to see what they issue for fine amounts for parking violations?
Everybody's all over the board. Kathy might have to.
Before, traditionally, we were given like $5,
Right.
is what they were before when they were.
Right.
And
How many years ago?
Hundreds.
And that,
it really wasn't that many. I mean, I
I
haven't been there that long.
No, but I mean, it's still $5, isn't it?
It was, I bet it is, because it was that way, yeah.
Never
It
been
stayed
changed.
that way, yeah.
So it's still on the books, it's $5.
Still different.
no, it's
No.
not.
No, not now, we took it off.
It's not on the books at all now, because at town meeting, the voters approved the ordinance that took all those $5, $10, $15 increments
Yes.
out
Yep,
and gave the authority back to the board to set a price.
yep.
If I recall, that $5 fee went up for multiple violations and that sort of thing.
Is there a rush that we have to set a fee today?
No, I'm just letting you know that before you start enforcing it, you're gonna need a fee. And before we actually order the paperwork, I'd like to have a fee in there.
Okay.
So,
All right, still has.
But we really are not going to enforce until Jeff gets the signs up.
signs gotta go up first.
You gotta have a reason.
Exactly.
You give me a ticket, where's the,
Exactly.
January 1, before enforcement.
well, when he gets, signs.
All right, so, nobody wants to make a motion on setting the fee? Want to wait?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait. All right, number 8, discuss procurement policy.
I like putting that on there because it's easy to say. So at the last meeting, the board saw the first draft of this procurement policy, which is basically the process by which we secure bids when we receive grants from the federal government. As you recall, this was prompted by our $45,000 grant we received to purchase Jaws of Life equipment for the fire department. We do receive other federal grants, including the one that's helping the Madison mill through GOLAB, that $300,000, that came from a federal grant. So Tammy has done a lot of work on putting this together and being in contact with the federal auditor for her recommendations. I'll draw your attention to 2 places that I think the board needs to be aware of. On page 2, under section 4, section 4.1, informal price quote requirements. The department head shall conduct and document informal competitive price quotes for purchases over $5,000. So it's important that you, as a board, be in agreement that this is the level. Anything under $5,000 does not require competitive bidding. The reason that's different is right now you have an ordinance that says anything over $1,500 may require competitive bidding. So if you adopt this, you're going to have something that says shall, but the number's gonna be higher, up to $5,000. So I think we can marry the two of those together. We'll have to take that 1,500 out of the ordinance. My recommendation is if you do pass this, this doesn't become the ordinance, this is an attachment to the ordinance. Does that make sense?
Mr. Elias?
Does this have to go to town meeting?
No,
Oh, so we do not have to take all these prices out like we did the other stuff?
that's correct, no. The only thing I would take out of the ordinance, and that's chapter 572, is that number $1,500 may.
These are not fees.
No,
These are.
this is just
So
a
that,
criteria.
what we took out of town meeting was fees.
Right.
Are we looking for, action on this right now?
Again, we would like to have action approving this tonight, because we told the lady from FEMA that we would have it done within 30 days, and that comes up this week or so.
So the question that the town manager has, I believe, is that, can we agree with $5,000 as being kind of the threshold of where, anything under that, we're not gonna get bids for that, basically?
Can I just ask a question first?
After Mr. Moody.
Yep, I'm gonna make the motion, then we can have discussion. And I'll make that motion that the purchase requirement is $5,000.
Well, as read.
As read, yes.
You're making a motion to approve the purchasing policy.
Right, 4.1, the formal
So
price.
I'm a little confused, it sounds like Mr. Moody is just making a motion on a section.
Nope, he's making the motion on the whole thing, right? Take your 5,000 out,
This is.
take your 5,000 out and say, just say purchasing policy.
Well, let me hold,
Now, hold on.
Can I just ask you to hold that motion for just
Yes.
a second?
Yeah,
Before you make the motion, because ideally what we're gonna need at the end of the night is a motion on the entire packet. So,
But I was under the impression you needed something here to bring it from $1,500 to $5,000.
no, I'm just saying, if you approve this, you're gonna have a $5,000 threshold, which
It'll be
is,
automatic.
it'll be automatic, which is different.
Now it's computed.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue.
The other thing I was gonna draw your attention to is on the next page, page 3, section 5, exceptions. And section 5.2.1 lists the exceptions. So utilities, electrical, natural gas, fuel, heating oil, water, sewer, telephone, cell phone, advertising, postage, state and federal taxes, court judgments, workers' comp claims, debt service payments, legal and professional services, general assistance, and the road and highway account. All those would be exempted from that $5,000 threshold. So, in other words, this allows us to do business as usual, and when we have a contract, mowing cemeteries, providing fire equipment, providing some sort of professional services like auditing, those things are above that $5,000 threshold, and they would require competitive bidding.
Okay, I have a question to that.
Mr. Elias.
Does this, this forbids us, or you, Mr. Town Manager, from negotiating with contractors like the cemetery? You have to put it out to bid, because their bid is actually more than $5,000. If we get a good, we've experienced this 100 times in the past, right?
Right.
You get a good contractor, you want to sit down and you want to negotiate for the next year or for 3 years or whatever.
Right.
Okay, we have a 3-year contract now
Right.
because we went through town meeting, which gave us permission to do 3 years. Selectmen can only do 1 year by law. Town meeting says we can go up to 3 years, which they did. But does that negate you from putting this out to bid next time?
No, I think it would allow us to continue to do that.
How? You said a thing of $5,000.
But we're gonna put out a competitive bid for cemetery mowing.
Right, and then you take that to town meeting. You take your 3-year, or whatever rate it is, to town meeting.
No, you're missing my point.
You figure it in the budget.
You're missing my point. That's not my point at all.
Okay.
My point is you have a good guy doing the job right now.
Yep.
So 3 years goes by, we put it up to bid because we have a $5,000 cap.
Yep.
Okay, the bid comes in at 25,000, all right? But Joe Blow, guy starting out, I'll do it for 15,000, all right? They can't do the first year's contract because they're not doing the job, so now what happens?
There's nothing in here that requires the selectmen to take the low bid. If we've got a contractor that's doing good work for us, and that contractor continues to put in bids every 3 years, and they're competitive, this board can consider that even though it may be more expensive than the lowest bid.
That's all fine and dandy, but what happens is, I've noticed over the past years, is when you do that, people that are sitting here that's put in a contract, or put in a bid, say, I'm not gonna bid in Madison anymore because they've got their guy all picked out anyway. That's happened. When I sat on this board before. So if you're gonna continue to do that, this takes away your ability, to negotiate with the contractor.
I guess I'm not understanding.
Now, I can see that there's
So
gonna be a problem.
you're saying you'll take the guy who is in there right now with York,
That's correct.
right? So he has a 3-year contract.
That's right.
So at the end of the 3rd year of that contract,
We have to put it up to bid.
okay, but you're trying to say that if we didn't have that go out to bid, Tim could sit down with York and
That's my-
negotiate for the next 3 years.
That's correct. This is gonna take that away from you, as far as I'm concerned.
But as far as my practice has been since I've been here, and I think it's the same as the previous town manager, specifically to cemetery maintenance, we've asked those carriers that are doing a good job to come back and put in another bid. And that way we've been able to negotiate with them. So right now, as it stands right now, our mowers are in the last year of a 3-year bid. And so we have York, we have Boynton's, and we have Bobby Bishop. That's taking care of all of our mowing. They're all in the last year of their contract. Well, this spring, we already put it out for a competitive bid. And the bids that came back, that you as the selectman awarded, you awarded to York and Boynton's and Bobby Bishop. Because not only were they the most competitive, they were also the most experienced. So that way, the system that's laid out here has worked. I don't see the concern of it not working in the future, plus it allows for us to be fully transparent and accountable.
I understand all that. But have you never negotiated with the guy?
I've never gone back to York and say, hey, can you do that for 10,000?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying you've got a person that with him, we have very little complaints, correct?
Right.
You've never sat down with York, what's his first name? Paul York. You never sat down with him and said, you did a good job the last 3 years, what can you give us for next 3?
Yeah, we do that every 3 years. I go out and send a bid packet to him.
No, I'm not talking about a bid, Ken.
Oh, okay. Then I guess that's how I'm doing what you're asking.
Right.
Because I know Alpha's been on the board, and we've had plenty of problems up there with mowers, and Ronnie has too, okay? So I just don't want us to lose that, because some new guy comes in from who knows where, and puts in a bid that's $5,000 less,
Right.
and we say, no, we're gonna take you, York, or blah, 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 he's gonna say, well, I'm gonna tell everybody else, never mind, go to Madison, they got their guys all picked out. I spent time figuring this stuff all out. I mean, it takes time to figure out these bids. I'm just concerned about what has happened in the past. I'm not gonna say could happen, but
Right.
has happened.
Part of the procurement policy is the town manager and the department heads need to make a spreadsheet. So they're gonna put all their bids down, and they're gonna put, if it's to the town's advantage to keep them, or a disadvantage. Then they're gonna check also, in this whole procurement policy, they're gonna check on their performance. They're gonna check if they're qualified. Part of this is if they have been under the SAM, we kind of skipped over that one, but if they have been debarred, or if they're a good vendor or bad credit, it covers everything. So it kind of gives department head and the town manager to see if it's gonna benefit the town to not always go with a low bid, not always go with a high bid, but middle of the road. It gives them a little bit of leeway to look at, yeah, you're $500 cheaper, but the $500 more is a Madison worker.
That is what you don't want.
No, But you can, if you have it on a spreadsheet and you write everything down, which is what FEMA wanted us to do, and we have that guideline, and Tim and Donnie have done it for the grant that he just got. Jeff does it for the paving already, so we already do it. You just don't see all the legwork behind it. This kind of buttons everything up.
So we already do that, so you negotiate for pavement without putting it up to bid?
No, everything goes out to bid, is what I'm saying. It's no negotiation. It's sealed, there's different bids.
Tammy, I understand all that, but you know what? Dealing with roads is a lot different than dealing with people's infections up there in that cemetery.
Yes.
Okay? So when you have a bad contractor, and what happens is halfway through the summer, he doesn't do his job, and we get rid of him. Now we pay top dollar to get somebody else come back in here, which we've done before.
Yes.
That's my concern. When you get a guy in here that does a good job, but you've got a guy that comes from out of town, and he's gonna do this 3-year thing for, say, $10,000 less, and we know, doing a background check, that he can do it, because he does 20 other cemeteries, but finally comes over from way over here, maybe he's in Pittsfield, I just can't send my crew over there and make any money. I made a mistake. So you know what? Now we're stuck. My point is, if Tim could sit down with York and negotiate for next year, we don't even have to worry about a bid process. That's my point. So we accept this, we've lost that. Because a lot of times with the cemetery, I don't care about anything else but the cemetery. You know, that's a sensitive issue with me. And I'll tell you, if you lose that, you're just gonna have problems.
I mean, I think it's the same thing though, with Jeff buying a truck, right, or a dump body, right? That's the same type of
It
thing.
isn't, Albert. No, it isn't, because if he comes in here and he's buying a Mac, or he's buying a, whatever it is, okay? You gotta look at what you're buying, and you're looking at a truck. How many times do you field calls from the cemetery now that Paul's doing it?
None.
Very few.
That's correct.
And we
That's what I'm
We
getting
didn't,
at.
we didn't with McKinney either, but we made them go through a process of the guy before that. Now that's a whole different story.
So if you're.
So it's happened, see?
Yeah.
So if your main concern is cemetery mowing, could you add that into the exemption?
Yes, I can add that in there.
Because
I would like that.
Any exemptions.
Because I could see that as a professional service. Now, that opens a door, but it also gives you a little leeway.
I'm saying, if you sit down with Paul and you negotiate, see what I'm saying?
I
I just worry about that, because we've had that so many times in the past.
Yeah.
That's my only concern about this whole thing.
Well, I do think, I personally do think, and I don't want to drag this out any longer, but I do personally think it's the same thing with buying a truck. If Jeff's got a buddy at the truck company, the truck dealership, and he can go talk to him and get him down in a price, what's the difference?
There is none. So maybe this thing, maybe we don't need a cap in there. Maybe it should be 100,000.
It can be any number you want.
So,
Can we think about this?
No,
We can't?
no,
We can think about the amount.
no.
We gotta have it.
Can we change the amount?
You can approve it, and then you can bring it back at the next.
There we go. Okay. So I don't
All
wanna
right,
know.
so any other thing you need to look at?
So this is not etched in stone.
I need to send this tomorrow.
My question, this is not etched in stone.
No.
Okay.
because you approved it, and it doesn't need to go to town meeting, you can alter it in the future.
Yes.
Just like the personnel laws.
I'm done.
Really?
Believe it or not.
All right, so we need a motion to approve the, are we calling it
The draft of the procurement policy.
Didn't
To approve
Make
it.
a motion.
to approve the purchasing policy?
Was that your motion to approve? Oh, you were just talking about 5,000?
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the purchasing policy.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve the purchasing policy as read.
With further discussion.
Any other questions? I didn't say that.
No.
Any other questions?
I have to send the minutes.
Seeing none, all those in favor? All
No,
in
don't
favor,
forget that.
motion carries. All right, Mr. Moody, any questions, selectmen's concerns?
Yeah, I do. You might be here for a few more minutes. I think it's time for this board to take into consideration of bringing the assessor board back where we had it before, the Board of Assessors. And I'll tell you my basic reason for that. Dealing as a board of assessors, unless you've been schooled on it, have read about it, and have considerable knowledge, select people are sitting here behind this table and don't know BS about it. When I came on this last time, and I was informed that a board member is considered on the Board of Assessors, and I talked to the town manager, said, I don't have a clue. Not one clue of knowledge about being an assessor. So I took it upon myself and went out to see Mr. Van Dynen and spent 2.5 hours with him, just getting the basic knowledge of what the heck an assessor does, what he can't do, what he can do. As far as I was concerned, the last board that we have, or had, was doing one heck of a job, and we wasted an awful lot of schooling of knowledge as a board of assessors that we had. And as this board changes, those new people coming on board, they ain't got a clue. They're starting all over again. Now, there was one benefit that I see about it, and that's when we was dealing with the paper mill there. Because of the way it was, we had access to some knowledge that we wouldn't have had access to. But those become exigent circumstances at some times. I don't hope that we don't have to deal with that again like that. Or if we do, those people that are assessors and the town manager just throws up a red flag, even though there's a gag on it, you can still throw up a red flag and say, I would suggest you might want to consider this, this, and this. So this is why I'm talking tonight, and I'm pushing to have the Board of Assessors brought back to this town. And to go talk to some of the past members that were on the Board of Assessors who have all this expertise and knowledge to see if they have forgiven everybody from cutting them out of the job. That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
That's your last thing?
For right now.
Okay. Mr. Wise?
What's the, that's town meeting stuff, right? So, and I know you and I have talked about this in the past, and you said we should ease into it, which we would, because we wouldn't even be able to do that for 2 years. We take it to the next town meeting,
Right.
and then, now that doesn't mean we have to change our person we've hired.
No.
We're talking about getting the board back. And I know you and I have talked about that, and you said that they're all elected, but I'll tell you what, no one wants to run for that job. Okay, and as you see here, the selectmen have changed quite a bit in the past since you've been on. So, and I agree with Ronnie, we don't have the expertise. What we do have right now as assessors is the advantage of setting the overlay. So, and like you and I have talked, before the overlay is set, the assessors could have a meeting with the Board of Selectmen and go over why we need overlay money, okay? So other than that, to get back those people that know what they're doing, I agree with Ronnie. I think we need to look at not becoming assessors.
Can I ask a question? I don't know, does that have to come from petition from the townspeople?
I believe it can come from the select board to say, we would like to put on the town meeting warrant a question as to whether or not the town would like to separately elect a board of assessors, or somehow change the configuration of assessors. Now, the process of doing that is if you had a special town meeting before next June, you could put it on that warrant, or you could wait till next June. If you waited till next June, that wouldn't change until the following June's election. If you did a special town meeting, you could do that to be effective at town meeting. Okay, so you could do it within less than a year or a little less than 2 years.
What? To address your question, how did it get off?
Petition.
Who petitioned?
The citizens, they had enough
They had no
signatures.
signatures.
Yeah,
And then
signatures.
that was brought to the select board, and the select board put it on a special, I think they called a special town meeting for that.
Yeah, I think we already had like a special town meeting coming up and that was added on or something like that.
It was done by petition. It wasn't
Okay,
done
that
by
was
the board.
that was done by petition, but when we, our former clerk treasurer, we don't name any names, the Board of Selectmen took a warrant to the town and had that non-elected to appoint it. We didn't need a petition to do that, we did it. So we can take and make up a warrant article, like you just said.
Certainly could, yeah.
Okay.
The town meeting warrant is the selectmen's document. Right. They can write it any way they want.
I'm thinking that,
I'm not gonna argue this. I probably wouldn't vote for it to go back, but I will say that the assessors are citizens that are elected. Right? I mean, so if somebody gets elected, there's no reason that they have any knowledge of that assessor board. The key is, to me, is the agent of the assessor. Which, Shirley. Right, that's the key, the agent to the assessor. Right, it's gonna help any board. In my reading of being an assessor, I mean, it's all common people, right? I mean, everybody in this room who's a citizen of Madison could be elected to the assessor board. Doesn't mean that they have any knowledge of assessing.
do we have courses from MMA for assessing?
Yes.
Are we gonna spend money on this board to go to assessor?
If we would like to go.
That's fine, okay? So you spend money for me, I run next year, I lose.
Okay, but that's gonna happen no matter what you do, right?
Can you
We spend
tell
money
me-
to educate, we spend money to educate Jeff as a road commissioner. He runs again and loses.
Can you tell me how many assessors you saw change places?
I don't know.
So is this something the board would like to discuss as an agenda item at the next meeting?
Probably.
Just remember, your next meeting is a Board of Assessors meeting.
I
to
think
set
we
the
need
tax
to,
rate.
I think we need to set that first. Maybe in September? Do you want this on the agenda in September?
Anytime. I don't think we need to go to special town meeting. I wouldn't go spend money and do that.
I would like to talk with Shirley and bring the board some options, some recommendations. Just off the top of my head, I'd like to see if it has to be an elected assessors board, or it could be an appointed assessors board. I'd like to also investigate appointing an assessor's agent, as in one person that handles that and reports to the town manager, much like code enforcement does. So I suggest we put this on as an agenda item at a future meeting and research and discuss some options.
Could you just say what you said last? Isn't that the way it is now? Doesn't she report to you?
She reports to you as the Board of Assessors.
She doesn't come see you at all?
Oh, she talks to me, but she reports, and I do her contract, but as far as abatements go, you have the final say, the assessors have the final say on that. I'll give you an example. Shirley is also the assessor in Waterboro. She doesn't have a board. She handles all the abatements individually, and she deals with the town manager and the board of selectmen. So there is no board of assessors in Waterboro. Shirley is the assessor. So that's one model that's out there. There's several models in different towns that are out there. I'd just like to bring those up.
Well, what we had before, I like the continuity because Kathy Wilson was on for a long time. Dick Bartlett was on for a long time. Raymond Susi, he retired off that board, then Bob Gopian came on. So those people had a lot of knowledge.
Right.
You know, Dick Bartlett's got a lot of assessing knowledge. And then that augments your person you have like Shirley. What they know, I know you hate it, Mr. Vinziano, they have history. And,
Right.
And now, whether you like it or not, you have history on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Elias. I'm not as old as some, so, but those people can get elected to this board here also. Correct? the people that you're speaking of, or any other citizen can get elected to the select board, right? I mean, we next year have 1 or 2 people up for re-election, correct?
2.
2, well, we have 2. If 2 citizens come up and beat them, all of that knowledge, all of that history has been lost.
You don't like history, though.
All right, I give up. Mr. Savage, anything?
Nothing.
I would say with this, we're gonna wait till September probably before we bring it up again. August is gonna
That's
be
fine.
busy.
October.
All right, I have a couple. One is the RC more trucks that go through town. They're increasing all the time. Is there any way we can ask Poland Spring to pick a different town to go through? I mean, I see no value to it.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
This is the route from Kingfield to Water.
From the corner in downtown through to Waterville on Saturday, I counted 15 to 20 trucks of RC Moore going through. It's just ridiculous. They're pounding the heck out of Main Street, they're pounding the heck out of Old Point Avenue, and I'm sure that guy who was at the meeting at Old Point 6 months ago is still hollering, and he should be. Those trucks go through and that, everything rattles. Everything rattles, and I think we need to make a stand on, and I know probably our stand won't be very much, but it is ridiculous.
Come live at my house for a week.
What goes out there, tomatoes?
Gravel.
Gravel? Oh, I don't wanna live up there, I wanna live in town. And the other one is the flags on Main Street.
Yeah, they need tweaking.
We gotta get them into somehow so they aren't rapping all the time. I know that's Madison Electric.
I have talked with Jeff Melcher, we talked about that today.
Okay, because there are folks that are complaining.
I know.
All right, anything else, citizens' concerns?
Actually, something
Yes.
to bring up. Since we overspent on the tipping fees, could there be a consideration to bring back the recycling program?
The reason we overspent on the tipping fees was because of recycling. Recycling costs 5 times more now than it did a year ago. If you like to listen to National Public Radio, they had a special on a couple of weeks ago, and National Public Radio said, you guys are gonna freak out, but it's actually cheaper to put all your plastic in the landfill. So, for folks who have been recycling their whole lives, it's hard to understand, but since China stopped taking all the recyclables, the cost of recycling has skyrocketed. So, you may be doing your best to put your bottles in that blue barrel, and they take it to waste management. I hate to tell you this, but a lot of it's going in the landfill. So,
Great.
Any other citizens' concerns? All right, seeing none, looking for a motion to adjourn?
So,
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:16.